Abraham's Boys, the new 2025 film, which is a follow-up to Bram Stoker's Dracula, most famously brought to the screen by Francis Ford Coppola. Although it's not necessarily relevant, this story is based on the short story by none other than author Joe Hill, the author behind such stories as The Black Phone. The film is written and directed by Natasha Corman, most recently known for VHS 85 and Lucky. The film does take place 5 years after the events of Bram Stoker's original Dracula. Now, the film is more of a slow burn and not your typical vampire film. It tells the story of the sins of the father being passed down to the sons, which is such a tragic and sad tale, but it is important because it's really the magic that makes this movie work. Sons are tested and find their inner strength as they must stick together against their unhinged father as he is slowly becoming more deranged as he's on this path of darkness because they're trying to escape their troubled past, which is starting to catch up to them. So we have to talk about the performances by the two brothers played by Brady Hempter and Judah McKay. Their performances are astonishing. Now, when you take these two brilliant performances and you add it to the detail of Kirschman, it just gives you this well-woven film that just, even though it's a slow burn, it's a slow burn, but it continues to pull you in the best possible way. Mana's attention to detail in this film, from the shots to the wardrobe, are so precise, and it's just so blissful. It pulls you in and adds the majesticness of this film that just continues to slowly pull you deeper and deeper as the film goes on. Now, this is not your typical blockbuster or a film that I would say that everybody's going to love and everybody must go out and see. This film definitely has its audience, and that audience is going to be your horror fans. Your fans who love vampire films, even though this isn't your typical vampire film. I would say it's kind of like Sinners in a way, where it's not your typical vampire film, although it's a little different because Sinners is much more a drama with the vampire being an undertone aspect, whereas this film, vampires are at the core of the film, but at the same time, it's very much a subtext, not necessarily your forefront. Like, this ain't the fucking Lost Boys. There's no unnecessary jump scares, and it's not, gallons and gallons of fake blood being thrown at the screen. It's very much an elevated story that kind of is more on a intellectual level of telling it's a more horror film with an intellectual level of storytelling that is told to you in such a way that it burns slow but pulls you in deep. Now, again, this film is not going to be for everybody. It's just not, Avengers Endgame. Not everybody is going to see this movie and just be completely blown away by it. However, if you do like horror films and you are more of a horror fan, this is a film that I would definitely recommend checking out. And with that being said, personally, I absolutely found this film to be astonishing in more ways than one, and I have to give this film a full price. Now, again, with that being said, it's a full price, but it's not for everybody. If you don't like horror films, if you're not into the lore of vampires and things of that nature, you're probably not going to love this movie. Again, now, if you like monster movies, you like horror films, you like vampire films, this is the movie for you. It's definitely a slow burn. So this is not going to be it's not the fucking Lost Boys. With that being said, I give it a full price. However, this film is not going to be for everybody. Don't go into this film expecting it to be your typical blockbuster, vampire film. It's not that. It's very much more of a intellectual, slow-burning horror film that is going to fill your desires if you enjoy this style of film. And with that being said, I give it a full price. I definitely enjoyed this movie, and I would pay full price to see it in theaters. Again, the film got picked up by Shudder and FDJE Films. Anytime a film gets picked up by Shudder, I always assume it's probably not going to get a wide release. It is coming out July 11th in theaters. Probably being able to see it in theaters is going to be hit or miss, I think. However, if you can see it in theaters, definitely recommend seeing it in theaters and paying a full price ticket to see it on the big screen. However, if you can't, I foresee it being on Shudder probably in the next few weeks. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And as always, if you like what you see here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.